I would now like to invite Kiran Mazumdar, Chairman and Managing Director of Biocon Limited, former Chairperson IIMBue, and Chief Patron IIMBue, on stage to say a few words. Kiran needs no introduction. She has been a patron of IIMBue since inception and remains a steadfast supporter. After her address, may I please request Kiran to stay on stage and introduce our first speaker. Over to Kiran.
Good morning, everyone. And let me add my very warm welcome to IIMBue 2018. This year's theme, Sensing the Future, aims to define the changing role of the leader, which is rapidly evolving from garnering market share through competitive intelligence to building market leadership by sensing the future. The new age leader needs to proactively anticipate, experiment, and adopt new disruptive thinking and technologies in order to remain relevant and ahead of the curve. Businesses are evolving into amorphous and boundaryless organizations that are breaking hierarchies and stereotypes. As we all know, virtual is reality and vice versa. AI and automation are threatening the pace of both disruption and competition like never before, and every organization is grappling with being relevant in the digital economy. Conversely, there is an emotive trend that is seeing the advent of capitalism with a societal conscience. Leaders of today need to sense the future with wisdom and compassion. They need to steer their companies by navigating through uncharted territories, taking more risks with greater uncertainties. They will need to be innovators, mavericks, pioneers, visionaries, and game changers. And against this backdrop, the third edition of IIMBue, which is a leadership conclave for IIMBue alumni, aims to reflect this new spirit of leadership. IIMBue 2018 provides an exciting platform for all that I mentioned before: industrial leaders, game changers, path breakers, sports heroes, spiritual thinkers, and people from film and the creative world to come together and deliberate on these very exciting but rapidly changing times. IIMBue seeks to inspire and admire, interact and introspect. And finally, the event hopes to influence a thought process that can shape the leadership dialogue to be prepared for a formidable future. So it is now my great pleasure to request our first speaker, Dr.Devi Shetty, to kickstart IIMBue 2018 with his thoughts on how breakthrough technologies will change the face of healthcare in the future. Dr. Devi Shetty needs no introduction to this audience. He is internationally renowned as a disruptor in healthcare delivery. His affordable cardiac care model has been the subject of many, many case studies, including at Harvard. Dr. Shetty has created a global network of hospitals under the NH Hospitals umbrella, including a very innovative concept in the form of a hospital at Cayman Islands. He is one of the early authors of medical tourism in the country and enjoys a high reputation as a thought leader in disruptive thinking when it comes to healthcare. He has featured in several international documentaries and has advised a number of governments across the world. When it comes to awards and recognitions, he has many to his name. And I think he's also a proud recipient of many national awards, of which the foremost is the Padma Bhushan, which he won in 2012. One of his treasured attributes was that he operated on Mother Teresa and remained her personal physician for many years. I personally have had the privilege of being inspired by Dr. Devi Shetty for many years, as a friend, business partner, and as a board colleague. And I have always been impressed with his penchant for new technologies. So, without much ado, it's over to Dr. Devi Shetty.
Can I have the first slide, please? Yeah. Good morning, friends. Thanks, IIMBue, for the opportunity. Thank you, Kiran, for guiding us and making us what we are. Thank you. In the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about how data and technology will dramatically change the way healthcare is delivered across the planet. I'm predominantly going to concentrate upon data visualization for the doctors in their handheld devices. I believe that within the next 5 years, smart software will make smarter diagnosis than doctors. Within 10 years, it will become legally mandatory for the doctors to take a second opinion from the software before starting the treatment. I have kept this time frame of 5 years and 10 years, and I always keep postponing it because I don't want my professional colleagues to shoot me down. It is going to happen much shorter. Now, why I am so confident? It is because the doctor's greatest art is diagnosis. And diagnosis is made by finite components. When you have to come up with a decision based on finite components, machines can always be smarter than humans. And when there is a time frame, doctor doesn't have whole day to diagnose the problem. He has only 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then machine can prevail. We make the diagnosis based on just 4 inputs. One is, what are the types of disease one can suffer from? Irrespective of how hard you try, this is the data from CDC, the Center for Disease Control Prevention from US. You cannot suffer from more than 2,445 diseases. And we make diagnosis based on symptoms. That is what you complain to the patients. You cannot complain of more than 638 things. It's not there. Headache, body ache, head reeling, stomach ache. There are only 638 complaints you can complain to doctors. And doctors examine you and they elicit what we call as signs. There are only 510 signs we as doctors can elicit. Everything is finite. Then we send your blood for lab reports, blood, urine, whatever. There are only 2,245 lab reports what can be done today. And then we ask you to get CT scan, MRIs, ultrasounds. There are only 426 diagnostic imaging tests we can look at. Any software on a mobile phone can put it and come up with the diagnosis. It is as simple as that. But does it make doctor less important? No. There were technologies to fly a plane without pilots, what's called as a fly-by-wire, 25 years ago. But none of you want to get into a plane without a pilot. So doctors will remain important, but software will make us efficient. It will prevent us from making mistakes, and it will overall enhance your experience as a patient. There is a serious problem with healthcare. That is, very few of you are aware that healthcare industry is the largest industry in the world. It is not 8 trillion, it's 8.2 trillion. People think oil is big. Oil is only the 2 trillion. Automobile is big, it is only 2 trillion. The IT is big, it's only 3.4 trillion. Healthcare is the largest industry in the world. For young entrepreneurs, if you want to get into an industry, look at healthcare industry. But the sad thing is, after spending $8 trillion, less than 20% of the world's population has access to decent, safe healthcare. It's a tragedy, because tomorrow if the policymakers decide this is unacceptable, let at least half the world's population have access to life-saving healthcare, you need $16 trillion, which doesn't exist. Now, we have a challenge. How do we double the number of patients with $8 trillion? That is possible by using technology. Let's look at the grassroots. I'll just give you simple data. Let's look at surgery. Governments across the world have major plans for malaria, TB, and HIV. Malaria, TB, and HIV every year kills just 3.7 million people. But lack of access to safe surgery kills 17 million people. I'm not talking about heart operation, brain operation. I'm talking about 3 simple procedures called bellwether procedure. Emergency cesarean section, laparotomy for burst appendix, surgery for compound fractures. This is killing 32% of all the deaths happening in the world happens because of lack of access to these 3 surgeries. It is a shameful thing. Out of the 313 million surgeries done across the world, only 6% are done in parts of the world where half the population live. It is tragic, and it can be transformed in no time. Now, most of you think another problem in healthcare is hospitals are not safe for the patients. You may think American hospitals are safe for the patients. If 200 patients get admitted to an American hospital and spend one night, 1 in 200 dies due to medical error. It is not medical negligence, it is medical error. Getting admitted to an American hospital is 10 times riskier than skydiving. This is the data. Now, why hospitals are not safe? It is because there is a huge communication problem. Doctors don't communicate with each other. Nurses don't know what doctor is thinking. One doctor doesn't know what the other person is. Lab test report is available, but it doesn't come to the doctor where he wants it. There is a huge problem. In US, this is a report from Joint Commission of US, JCI, which accredits American hospital. 65% of the sentinel event happening in a hospital are due to communication failure. Now, you must be wondering, what is sentinel event? Do you know what sentinel event is? When doctors don't want to put anything unpleasant, we give a very fancy term. Sentinel event is nothing but 65% of the patient died in the hospital. That's what it is. Can you believe 65% of the patient die in hospital due to communication failure? Why this happens? Because the softwares are designed for a desktop, and doctors never sit in front of a desktop. If you change the electronic medical records in a format that is built for the mobile phone, things will change dramatically. And it should be built on a chat platform like a WhatsApp, not for a desktop model. It should be built on a chat platform. So the communication, chatting, is the foundation on which healthcare is delivered. And this is the way electronic medical records should be developed. Now, it is what healthcare needs. First thing is, the electronic medical record you develop shouldn't have a keyboard, because doctors are not designed by God to type. We hate type, it should be on touch. And if you give us an instruction manual, we're going to throw the software. If you expect us to spend 76 hours of learning how to use the EMR, which is expected by billion-dollar EMRs from US, forget it. We are not going to use it. And We want real-time communication. And we want to build and destroy these apps in few hours because we don't know what we want. We tell the software engineer, we want this, this, this. You develop it, you give it to us, we use it for a few minutes, then we say, we don't want this. But it can't take 2 years to change it. And also, we want this software to be available to us on a SaaS model, on a pay-per-use model, software as a service. You can't expect us to spend $1 million and buy a software because most hospitals on the planet are broke. Most of the American hospitals are not for profit. Do you know why? They simply don't make profit. Now, what is the problem with the EMR? The problem with the EMR, the statement from Lord Minor, Dean of Stanford Medical College, doctors are burning out because EMRs are broken. In US, one of the reasons for the greatest the dissatisfaction with the profession by the doctor is EMR. EMR is supposed to make doctors happy to use it, but EMR is a cause for the physician burnout. American Medical Association says every hour spent with the patient, doctors spend 2 hours on updating EMR. It should be other way around. Stat New survey, improving EMR was the top of the list of ideas to transform healthcare. Now, why is it complicated? First, one problem. In the US, there is a problem of interoperability. EMRs don't talk to each other. But we have a very simple solution. A year ago, we launched an app called Health File on an Android platform. We believe that every patient with a medical history must carry their medical records on their mobile phone. Because you don't know when you fall sick, you're all traveling all over the world, no doctor, no hospital can treat you without knowing your history. Why it should be on mobile phone? Because mobile phone is with you all the time. Today, people forget their spouse, but they never forget their mobile phone. So wherever you go, you can carry the mobile phone. And with the mobile phone camera, you can take a picture, or it can be directly sent to the health file. And with the click of a button, you can transfer your data. Online healthcare will become a reality once you have your medical records on your mobile phone. Because before you talk to the doctor on a video call, you can send your data to him, and he knows exactly what the problem you have, and there can be a meaningful conversation. Why is it important? It is important because in this world, there is an acute shortage of medical specialists. We have 60 million diabetics with the proven diabetes, and there are less than 600 diabetologists. This is the situation. Now, do you think online retail is difficult to deliver, or online healthcare is difficult to deliver? Most of you think that online healthcare is difficult to deliver. No, online healthcare is much easier to deliver. I'll just give an example. Mr. Agarwal has a shop in Calcutta, makes nice rasagullas. I want to place an order. First, he has to make the rasgulla. I placed it online. He has to package it in a manner that it withstands the journey by flight to Bangalore, and it has to maintain the cold. The logistical complexity is huge, maintaining the temperature, and someone has to physically pick it up from the airport to bring it to my house. Mr. Agarwal gets chest pain, and he wants to consult me online. I can talk to him on a video chat. I know the history. In Google Map, I know where he lives. I'll tell Mr. Agarwal, 2 kilometers away from your house, there is a diagnostic lab. I have sent the request for the test. He goes there, gets the echo, treadmill, blood test, everything is done. Before he can put on his shirt, I have his reports in my phone. I can talk to him and tell him, echo is normal, blood test is normal, there is nothing wrong. It's as simple as that. Healthcare is nothing but interpretation of data. And data can be transferred anywhere. How it can transform the society. I'll give an example. Caribbean region, where we have built a hospital in Cayman Island, there are 29 island nations and 7,000 islands. Each island has 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 people living. And none of those islands can justify the presence of a diabetologist or a cardiologist. But with the online healthcare, we can offer world-class healthcare to all of them. Because beauty of healthcare is when you hear somebody is unwell, 99% of the time, the person who is unwell doesn't need operation. If I don't need to operate on you, I don't need to touch you. If I don't need to touch you, you need not be sitting in front of me. You can be anywhere. I'll just show you how data can save lives. Microsoft has developed a platform called Kaizala, which is a platform for chat applications in various organizations. And this has been adopted by us for delivering healthcare. And Microsoft is very aggressive in modifying it to suit our requirement. Last 5 months now, since we started building applications on Kaizala platform, I haven't done the ICU rounds because every 4 hours on my phone, I get the data on my patient. I get the cardiac monitor, blood gases, anything I want, I get it. I do the rounds in the ICU. Before I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, I do the rounds in the ICU. 4 o'clock in the morning when I get up, I again do the rounds. I do the rounds in the ICU sitting in a plane which is about to land in Sydney. Recently, I was in a Baltic Sea cruise and I was doing the rounds. It is possible. Now, why is it important? Because in healthcare, data, there is a problem of data reaching the right people. Like this is the patient, I did a complex operation. 5 days after the operation, I was in Jammu. And I saw in the WhatsApp group, in the Kaizala group, I got the patient detail with the photo, with the scar and the swab which is stained with blood-stained fluid. And underneath my intensivist wrote, there is oozing, there is fever, and he suspected infection, he changed the antibiotic. I saw the message at 4 o'clock in the evening, 4:30, and I gave a message that it is not infection, it must be a pericardial effusion. There is a condition called tamponade, where blood collects around the heart, it squeezes it, in about 6 hours it can kill the patient. And it happened in the evening. So I asked them to do the echo, and half an hour later they sent me the report. We did the echo, there is 1.5 liters of fluid squeezing the heart, and they tapped it, everything is fine, patient went home. If I didn't see that message at 4:30 in the evening, believe me, there is a strong possibility that the patient would have landed in complications and he would have died. And this is the power of data, because as a doctor, when I look at the swab with the blood-stained fluid, if it is infection, it should be pus. If it is blood-stained fluid, you show this photo to any heart surgeon, he will say it is the pericardial effusion. You don't need to be Einstein because that's our job, but the intensivist doesn't know. So this is the reason why data visualization in a handheld device can dramatically transform the way healthcare is delivered. Now, not only about the patient care, no. Data visualization in many forms can dramatically change everything you do. You see thousands of nurses. Whenever you go to ICU, you see the nurses staring at the cardiac monitor. If you ask them what that ECG is, they don't know. 99% of the nurses do not know. More than 90% of the doctors themselves don't know how to interpret a ECG, because we are not expected to read ECG. ECG is interpreted by the cardiologist, but a nurse standing and staring at the monitor, she should know. Now, we have to teach her. We did a simple study in our hospital. We identified 50 girls who spent 6 months to 1 year in our ICU. And if you go to internet, there are sites which can teach ECG very easily. This is such a site called SkillStat. All it gives is, for 1 minute, you have a ECG scrolling up with 45 differential diagnoses. You can only diagnose 45 things in this ECG. And they have given the differential diagnosis. So nurse has to see the ECG, whichever is coming up, and touch the right diagnosis. Then it will grade her. So we called 50 girls, showed them the site, and we tested them. All the 50 girls got 100% of the diagnosis wrong 100% of the time. Then we told them, we are going to give you 10 days. You're going home, this is the website, you use your phone, get the data, you learn. And after 10 days, we are going to repeat the test. And we did it. You know what happened? 100% of them got 100% right answers. Now, did we teach them? No. So this is the beauty of technology, and their results are much better than most of the doctors. Because what they learned is a pattern recognition. And that is what is expected from a nurse. Nurse doesn't need to know what P-wave or a QRS complex is. So using the data, using the images, using the technology, we can make ordinary people to do extraordinary things. This is the beauty of data and data visualization. Now, is it expensive to do this? No. These products can be made. I'll just give an example. My son, when he was going through his cardiac surgery training program, all the young surgeons need to maintain a logbook called surgeon's logbook. And all the logbooks are made for desktop. He didn't like it, so he wanted to make a logbook for the surgeons, which is on a mobile phone. He borrowed 60,000 rupees from me. With his friends, he made this app called Surgeon's Logbook, which is the easy way of entering the data. After it is launched, now it's about 30,000 surgeons across the world use this app. And this is the beauty. This is the beauty of converting atoms into bytes. For the entire evolution of society, as long as things were available as atoms, when you give it to others, you lose it. Like, I'll give an example. If I have 1 kilo of rice, I give you half a kilo of rice. I have lost my half a kilo of rice. If my son made one surgeon's logbook for his use, and he paid for it, and he has distributed 30,000 surgeons. 30,000 of them have what he has, and he hasn't lost what he has. This will dramatically change the way healthcare is delivered if you convert atoms into bytes. With one digital X-ray machine, you can X-ray the whole Indian population at virtually no recurrent cost. And this will dramatically change everything what we do. Now, all this transformation, most of us expect it to happen in the US, because they have the knowledge, they have the wherewithal, they have the resources. One thing for sure, I can take a bet, this digital transformation will not happen in US. I'm not saying it will happen in India. It may not happen, but we have a hope. But it will not happen in US because in US, no electronic medical records are legally allowed to be on a mobile platform because of the problem of litigation and data privacy. In US, they don't use the mobile phone in the hospital. Instead, they have pagers. And in India, if you want to see a pager, you have to go to a museum. In a country where patients' data is more sacred than patient life, no innovation can happen. My final message to all of you is that Uber has no cars, Facebook doesn't create contents, Alibaba has no inventory, Airbnb has no cars, and world's largest healthcare provider will have no beds because it is going to be a software. And we have a great opportunity to build it. And is healthcare very exciting for us? It is exciting. Because our biggest challenge in this country is creating jobs. If government policies are steering towards making the right policies for healthcare, believe me, we can dramatically change the entire economic outlook of the country. It can emerge as the largest employer in the world. I'll just give an example, the employment creation opportunity of healthcare. The largest automobile manufacturer of India, with a top line of 65,000 crore rupees, hires 13,500 direct employees. We hardly have 2,000 crore rupees of revenue, 2,000 and odd crore rupees. and we hire 16,000 people. And most of our employees are not the doctors. They're all coming from, they generally are support staff coming from a rural, very, very lower socioeconomic strata. So it can be a game changer. If India decides to deregulate medical nursing education, open up the medical education, we can train 5 million people, doctors, nurses, and technicians, who can together earn $100 billion of foreign currency per year. Now, you may think that where did the $100 billion come? Just look at the figure. Cuba earns $8 billion through 45,000 doctors, nurses working in Central America and Africa. Philippines receives $29.7 billion of remittances, majority of them coming from 150,000 nurses, 18,000 physicians working abroad. So for us, earning $5 billion is no big deal because every developed part of the world loves to be treated by Indian doctors. There was a study from Harvard Business School. The Americans who are treated by expat doctors like Indian lived longer than the Americans who are treated by Americans. And my final message is never doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Thank you very much. Good luck.